Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT, and I came here to talk some boxing with thousands of True School Sports and subscribers as always. Now, this is going to be a little bit different video, so before I get into this video, Mr. Rapper Cassidy, he's got something to say in regards to boxing ego. This might be a familiar line to ego, so just take a listen.
The vets need to get rhyming the rest. Y'all sound like has-beens, and I ain't impressed. I'm dying a bit. You feel as though I ain't the best. Prove I'm lying if I ain't correct.
Prove that I'm lying if I ain't correct. That's what Cassidy said, and that's what Ego said in his recent video about Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez. In fact, Ego has a line where he says, "You can dislike, but you cannot disprove." And recently he made a video saying that Roman Gonzalez is not the pound-for-pound #1 fighter in boxing. The video was off of a Carl Froch article where Carl Froch made his pound-for-pound list. He did not put Roman at #1. He put him at #2 behind Sergey Kovalev, and Ego lost his mind because he had Andre Ward at #3 below Roman, and he made a whole half-an-hour video as to why Roman is the #1. Now, he said Andre Ward was number 1, which obviously I believe is ridiculously crazy at this point in time. But that's what this video is. I'm going to do exactly what Ego says nobody can do, because he has a very pretentious attitude and he acts like other people who watch boxing don't know as much as him, which is ridiculously crazy because in his video he showed himself to have very little knowledge about small weight classes. And I'm going to show you and prove to you why and how he has no knowledge of small weight classes. So this ain't new media. We keep it to you. I give it to you 100% raw rugged here on True School Sports. This ain't new media. This is true media, True School Sports. And yeah, this video is going to be how easily disprove boxing ego and by telling him why Roman Gonzalez is the #1 fighter in boxing, particularly over his boy Andre Ward, whom he loves very much and gets a lot of interviews with. So keep doing your thing. But anyway, so here's what one of the first things he said in the video. He said, I quote, "What I notice is a lot of boxing fans these days, that they are sheep. So I guess I have to be the wolf." Now, listen, there are a lot of boxing fans who are sheep, and I'm not one of them. I'm someone who knows this game. I'm someone who definitely knows has a global perspective on boxing. Ego does not have a global perspective on boxing. He only knows whatever is going on HBO or Showtime or PBC. He's not following the small weight classes because a lot of those fights aren't on network television anyway. I mean, I follow them too. I mean, I follow them. I keep track of them on BoxRec. I really do my best. I even started covering smaller weight classes on my channel. You guys can see that. I just recently made a video about Kasunori Takayama, the Japanese minimum weight fighter who recently picked up the WBO title. So, I mean, yeah. If anything, a lot of the subscribers are sheep, and they allow Boxing Eagle to talk to them that way. So, his channel's changed a lot. Over time, as he's got more popular and he got his foot in the door more with more interviews and he's become more of a name. He's been a guy that has become very pretentious, talks very condescendingly to his subscribers, and I don't think you should do that. I think you should be appreciative that you have 45,000 subscribers or whatever it is, that they're giving you so many views, that they put money in your pocket, they make you relevant, they legitimize you as a channel. And I know on this channel, I appreciate all my subscribers. So anyway, that's not what this is about. This is about boxing ego and disproving the notion that Roman Gonzalez is the #1 fighter, which is ridiculous. Anyone who knows me, I made videos on this. I made multiple videos. I made a video about why Roman Gonzalez is the #1 fighter. That was about an hour long. I made a video about why Roman Gonzalez will be the #1 pound-for-pound fighter, regardless of what happens in Ward Kovalev. You can check those out. Will be in the description down below. And I gotta make this video. And I'm not the kind of guy who calls out channels. It's not at least not make whole videos about them, because there are guys, people in YTBC that do that. I do it in videos here and there, but I don't make it prolonged effort. This is going to be a prolonged effort because Boxing Ego really put his foot in his mouth with this one. And here we go. So here's what he said. This is one of the things he opens up his video with. He says, "Me personally, this is no Bay Area bias, but I think Ward should be above Roman." So that's a qualifying statement. That's to set up the fact that what he's about to say and really just going on Roman. He then continues justifying himself by showing all the Roman Gonzalez videos. Like he did a video just before his HBO debut, and he used it as a reason as to why why he's not biased, which to me is crazy because you can still be biased and make videos about saying positive things about fighters. I mean, I have videos, where I make statements here and there positively about Andre Ward, positively about Deontay Wilder. Maybe not throughout the course of the whole video like he did, but I do have statements, positive things I say about them. So it doesn't make me, it doesn't change the fact that maybe I don't like Andre Ward, I don't like Deontay Wilder, so maybe I'll be more biased against them. But I still say positive things about them. So with that being said, he continues to go on showing all these videos and whatnot. And listen, there are people on YouTube who are making videos before Boxing Eco and before Roman Gonzalez's pro debut. Pro debut in America, I should say. One guy is, shout out to him. He's a smaller channel. It's Sean Nguyen. Sean Nguyen lives out there in, I believe it was Taiwan. So he's very close to Japan. So I'm sure he knew about Gonzalez and all these guys he was beating way before any of us Americans knew. So yeah. So then when he goes to Andre Ward on the pound list, he goes to Andre Ward and he says, "We already know what Ward has done, and we're gonna show you what Ward has done." I mean, I'll tell you a little bit what Ward has done. You guys don't know for yourself because sometimes the media twists what Ward has really done. Now, does he have a good resume? Has he beaten good fighters? Absolutely. He beat Kessler. He beat Froch. These are definitely good fighters. Was Super 6 a tournament full of some solid fighters? Most definitely. But it was not the kind of tournament that would definitively give you an answer as to who is the best middleweight. Now, we can say that because Andre Ward won the tournament and he beat some really named fighters that he was and had a potential where he was the best talent in 168, but he didn't ultimately prove by completely clearing out the weight class. Sometimes this gets glossed over, but in the Super 6, only two of the 4 world champions competed. The other two, being Lucien Boutte and Stieglitz, they did not compete in the tournament. So to say Ward won the Super 6 and use that as a means to say he cleared out his division, he didn't clear out his division. He didn't fight Lucien Boutte, although he did say before the Super 6 started that he would fight, that the winner of the Super 6 should fight Lucien Boutte. That fight never happened for whatever reason, so that's counted as a duck, regardless if I think he would have won the fight or you thought he would have won the fight. I think he would have beat Boutte, but that doesn't matter because he didn't make the fight happen. And Boutte proved himself to be a good champion. He fought Carl Froch. Carl Froch was a slight underdog in that fight, and Froch beat him, which gives credit to Froch, not Ward, because Ward beat Froch. So with that being said, he had some soft touches in the Super 6. He had definitely advantages, being that he never left America at all in the Super 6. He was the only fighter that didn't leave his country in the Super 6 to fight. So he had the easiest road. It's like in basketball, when the Cleveland Cavaliers are the #1 seed and they play the freaking Atlanta Hawks and the Detroit Pistons to get to the conference finals. It's the same kind of thing. So with that being said, it's a good resume, but it's not like something that's going to make you an undisputed, no doubt pound for pound kind of guy. He had the layoff, and now recently he's came back and he's fought 3 guys: Paul Smith, Sullivan Barrera, and Alexander Brandon. I'm going to get into every single one of them, but I'm going to get into Sullivan Barrera first, because after he said we already know what he has done, he said he used Sullivan Barrera as a point as to why Andre Ward should be ranked higher than Roman up. Because he even used the term that he stepped up to Sullivan Barrera, like Sullivan Barrera was some sort of ducked and avoided fighter at light heavyweight, which couldn't be any further from the truth. Him being a top, standout Cuban amateur, like guys like Guillermo Rigondeaux, like Yuki Oris Gamboa, those kind of guys, that could be further from the truth either. So it's not like he fought one of those kind of Cubans. He fought a guy who was a solid domestic level amateur, but nothing special. And you guys have even heard Roy Jones Jr. say that on the Ward Barrera telecast, so it's not like I'm just making this up. So with that being said, he stepped up to Barrera, and people use this as a point of reference as to why Ward's comeback has been so good, which is a joke. I like Sullivan Barrera. I met him here at the fights in South Florida. Very nice guy. He just recently got a new trainer, Derek Santos, who was the assistant, who was the John David Jackson's right-hand man, and now he's trying to get a fight Arthur Beterbiev. So I hope that fight does happen. I'm rooting for Barrera. He's a nice guy, but he is not a top-level light heavyweight. Nor is Barrera a B-level fighter, or at least when Ward fought him. He's a C-plus fighter at best when Ward fought him. And his resume, he had no big fight experience whatsoever. This is not me hating. He had only 18 fights when when Ward fought him. So, and the best fight, the guy he fought was Carl Marat. But I'm going to show you guys. I'm not going to talk. I'm just going to show you because that's the best way is to show you guys. So, let's see. With everybody. All right, so we're gonna go here. I was on Bernard Hopkins' resume earlier. We're gonna get to that in a minute, but Sullivan Barrera, solid guy at light heavyweight. Definitely a good win for your first fight. Technically at the new weight, even though the Paul Smith fight was at light heavyweight, but we won't count that against us, since most of you don't. So yeah, 17-1. His 18th fight was against Andre Ward, as we all know now. This is his resume as it is. You have the likes of the name that probably stands out here the most to most American fans would be a guy like Jeff Lacey. Now, Jeff Lacey in his day, a solid light heavyweight. A lot of people had a lot of high hopes for him. He didn't quite live up to that. But Barrera fought him, and this is not the Jeff Lacey that American boxing fans were hyping up. This was a shot-out, very faded Jeff Lacey that had lost 3 of his last 5 fights, as you guys can see here on Boxer, or 3 of his last 6, I should say. So Jeff Lacey's a guy that probably stands out the most. But then he fought this guy right here, Hakeem, whatever his name is. He had 7 losses. And then the guy he fights now after that was Carl Marat, which is the best guy he fought, period. Now, Carl Marat, you guys might know Carl Marat, or some of you might remember Carl Marat. He's best known for fighting Bernard Hopkins. He's record 29-3-1. It's been a good, durable light heavyweight, but never a top-level guy. He's fighting soon against some guy who's like 8-4. But anyway, here's his resume as it is now. So he's fought some names you guys know. Gabriel Campillo, who Sergey Kovalev knocked out. That's a guy he beat. He also fought Tommy Carpentier. You guys might know Tommy Carpentier. He got knocked out by Donald Stevenson last year on PBC. Nathan Cleverly got knocked out by Nathan Cleverly. Had another split decision with Gabriel Campillo in the rematch, a draw. And then he fought Hopkins. Hopkins beat him while Hopkins was on his little run as light heavyweight. At light heavyweight. So with that being said, it's not like he was fighting some sort of world beater here in Carl Marat. And this is the guy that this guy had 0 big fight experience. This guy was making a major step up, in class to Ward, and Ward looked good, but it wasn't the kind of guy that would warrant me putting him over a guy like Roman Gonzalez. Simple as that. Just because a sanctioning body made him Kovalev's mandatory doesn't necessarily make him better than Roman Gonzalez. And if you're gonna say beating Sullivan Barrera, who was Kovalev's mandatory, was such a great win, then I can sit here and say, well, Shannon Briggs is ranked number 5 or 6 by the WBA, and somebody beats Shannon Briggs, and I can say, wow, this guy beat whoever holds the WB's out. He beat this guy beat Shannon Briggs. This is a great win because he was this dude's mandatory. I can say that, but it doesn't necessarily give credence to that fighter. Shannon Briggs is not a top 10 heavyweight. We know these sanctioning bodies and the business of boxing and these promoters pay sanctioning bodies out to push guys up. I'm not saying it's happening with Barrera, but it is a possibility. And to be a 17-fight prospect who hasn't really beat anybody outside of Carl Marat, I don't get how you could be the mandatory for Kovalev's title. That's just me calling it as I see it. But yeah, so Sullivan Barrera not a great win there, and he wasn't stepping up to Barrera. He took a fight that he could beat with a guy he could beat, and had a style that was tailor made for him. So then he goes to Carl Roch's pound for pound list, and he says, Carl Roch is hating on Ward. He could be bitter against Ward because Ward beat him in the Super 6, which I think is, whatever. It's a possibility, but he put Ward on the pound for pound list, which is something a lot of boxing fans, myself included, don't even do. I didn't put Ward on the pound for pound list. Made a video here, and I said that, Andre Ward is not on my pound for pound list. I gave him the respect of what he did in the past and put him, with a group of guys who were on the cusp, but not in my top 10. I think he showed him a lot of respect by putting him at number 3, especially over a guy like Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury doesn't have pound-for-pound skills. Tyson Fury is a guy who just beat Vladimir Klitschko, who was the longest-reigning heavyweight champion since Vladimir Klitschko, and that is not to be taken lightly. So that being said, he says, well, Carl Froch said that Kovalev is number 1 fighter because that's a style he likes. Kovalev has a kind of style that Carl Froch likes because he has knockouts and he's exciting and he's destructive in the ring, kind of like Carl Froch was. They both like to load up on their punches, although Kovalev has a lot more boxing skill. They both like to load up the punches and go for the devastating knockout, which is what he liked. He then said that Ward at number 3 left fans very, very cold and he bored them to death, and that he needs to have this Kovalev fight because he's on the cusp of not just being on the pound list, but being irrelevant in the landscape of boxing, period. So I don't think what he said was crazy, because a lot of people who watch Andre Ward, his style, the kind of style that attracts casual boxing fans, and a lot of hardcore boxing fans I know find him very boring. That's just the way it is. And then what he said about Gonzalez had really no emotion in it. He just said basically that it's a shame that he wasn't on more people's TV screens earlier, and that this guy is a great fighter, and he's doing Alexis Arguello, his mentor, RIP, very proud. Nothing too emotional there. Just some facts. A great fighter. We should have had him on TV earlier, which I think anybody who's watched Roman Gonzalez fight would agree. He's a very exciting fighter. We should have seen Roman Gonzalez here in America earlier. So yeah, he was very emotional when he was talking about this too, Ego. Yeah, he was name calling Carl Froch too. So, Froch, yeah, and I mentioned that Froch also stated that that Ward's lack of risk taking and activity is making him almost relevant. So I think by him recognizing that and him putting Andre Ward on the pound list, that's showing respect to Andre Ward for what he's done in the past, which is what a lot of people are doing. I'm not, because I feel like, well, why should he be over a guy like some of these Japanese dudes like Shinsuke Yamanaka, who's has the most title defenses in boxing right now, Naoya Inoue, who's jumped weight classes and beat name fighters. Why should he be above those guys who have put in the work? I just don't see why. So then, I knew Ego was in his feelings when I heard him say this, because he said it in his statement. He said, as far as Roman Gonzalez, not fighting guys who he deems as threats, he said this, I quote, "It's just like Gennady Golovkin. I want Gennady Golovkin to fight someone who I feel is competitive." Well, if you don't know anything about the smaller weight classes, Roman could fight, multiple top 10 guys, and that wouldn't be enough for you because you don't know who they are. And honestly, the likelihood of you knowing a lot of these lower weight class fighters is going to be very low, because there's not really many Americans in these weight classes. They're dominated by Mexican fighters, Japanese fighters, and a couple from other countries sprinkled in. But so a lot of these weight classes don't get on HBO or Showtime naturally. So just because your lack of boxing knowledge doesn't necessarily mean that what Roman is doing isn't great right now. He's separated himself from all other fighters in boxing right now, and I'm gonna go through his resume and I'm gonna show you how as this video progresses. So then he finally goes on BoxRec. He pulls up his resume. He goes to his last fight with McWilliams Arroyo, and he said, Roman didn't look good against Arroyo, which I thought was crazy. I mean, Roman didn't look as sharp as he did in the Viloria fight or Edgar Sosa fight, but this is not a guy that was an easy fighter. Contrary to what guys like Ego and Dante's Boxing Nation believe, Arroyo was a guy that, was coming off of a tough split decision loss, to Amnat Ruinwrong, who's also someone I'm going to talk about, because Ego exposed himself by Amnat Ruinwrong, and you'll see what I mean later. But what was I say? McWilliams Arroyo was a guy that, at the time when we fought him, he was number 6 ranked on Ring Magazine. A guy that I got robbed in a decision with Amnat Ruinwrong in the eyes of many people. Was basically the uncrowned IBF champion. A guy with a lot of with good amateur experience, represented Puerto Rico in the Olympics. So this is not some sort of pushover. Roman went in there, and yeah, did he knock him out? No, but the dude knocked out 10 guys in a row prior to that fight. So God forbid he have one bad night where he doesn't knock somebody out. But went in there, outboxed him, won most of the rounds. Against a durable guy and a top-level fighter in the division. So that's one of the real good wins for him. And I'm gonna show you guys. I'm not just gonna tell you. I'm gonna show you Roman, parts of Roman's resume that are really good, and I'll give you the whole picture. So he's saying, well, Arroyo, he didn't look good in the Arroyo fight. He won the Arroyo fight pretty convincingly. The only people who really don't think that performance was that good are guys like Ego and Dante. But anybody else who knows boxing and could clearly see that he beat Arroyo, who was really the uncrowned IBF light flyweight champion, and had Roman beat him, he would become a unified champion that night. So just keep that in mind when you talk about that fight. But Arroyo represented one of the many great wins at flyweight for Roman Gonzalez, a guy who's dominated that weight class like nobody else's business. Nobody's really been dominating any weight class in boxing quite like Roman. So I'm going to show you guys right here. Okay, so everybody. All right, so let me make sure I'm good. Am I good? Yeah, I'm good. All right, cool. All right, so we're here on okay, we're going to BoxRec. So Roman Gonzalez, and then we're going to go to Ring Mag, because Ring Mag has the information we want for me to illustrate this point, because Roman has not just, he hasn't just beaten a couple of good guys at flyweight, he's damn near cleared out half the weight class. I'm going to show you guys. So we're on BoxRec. This is Roman's resume. Alright, this is Roman's resume. So this is Roman's resume as it is. He's got to fight Carlos Cuadras coming up. That's going to be a ridiculously great fight. I'll be there, so you guys stay tuned for the great interviews and footage I'm going to get from that week. I got some great things lined up, so hopefully you guys are with me for that on here. But yeah, let's go to ratings. We're going to ratings on Ring Magazine, and then we're going to flyweight because that's the division Roman Gonzalez has been dominating recently. So we're here at 112. As you guys can see, Roman Gonzalez is the ring champion. Clearly dominated the division, beating the best guys. So here at number 1, we have a guy named Juan Francisco Estrada, who Roman fought in 2012. Juan Francisco Estrada has become a very dominant champion, a guy who became a unified champion, has defended that title 5 times, and really established himself as the clear-cut number 2 best fighter in that division behind Roman Gonzalez. Anybody else not named Roman Gonzalez is below Estrada. And honestly, with the kind of skill set Estrada has, if you watch them fight, you can make the argument that skill-wise, he's probably the best Mexican fighter in boxing today. So just keep that in mind when you talk about Estrada, and Roman beat him. So you see number 1. Number 3, Brian Viloria, right here. You know, Viloria, a lot of you guys don't know about Viloria, but he's a guy that's a great win for Roman. Now, I got to be honest, you know, when Roman fought him, Viloria was not in his prime, but he was still someone that, you know, was a top-level flyweight, still a guy that could give Roman Gonzalez problems, and for much of the fight, he didn't give Roman too much problems, but in the 8th round, I believe, 8th or 9th round later in the fight, he hit him with a body shot that Roman really had to be careful with, because he hit him with a body shot, the gas got completely taken out of Roman Gonzalez, and he had to show some grit, show some composure, and he was able to do that in that fight and beat a guy in Viloria who's been one of the best flyweights in the world for a number of years, well over a decade. So that's no small task there. And Viloria, I'm gonna get back to him later. I'm gonna further illustrate why that's a great win later on. So he's number 3 right now currently. Then you have Edgar Sosa, boom, at number 6. That was his American debut. But Edgar Sosa was the first guy Roman fought that we all saw Roman fight against. And you know, Sosa's not really known here in America, but if you look at the resume, he's been a guy that's, you know, he was WBC, I believe, light flyweight titleist at one point, and he defended that title around 10 or 11 times, was dominant champion. So Sosa, you know, some people would say that he's a fringe Hall of Famer. The guy's definitely a good fighter, no pushover for sure. So he's number 7, and I believe he was like number 4 or 5 when Roman fought him. And then boom, you have Aurora here at number 9. So when you look at the Ring Magazine flyweight top 10, you have 1, 2, you have 3, and then 4. Yeah, 4 of the top 10 flyweights in the world. Roman's beat him, and you know, in the case of, let's see, Arroyo, he didn't knock out Arroyo, but he knocked out Sosa, and he got a TKO over Viloria. So with that being said, you know, he stopped 2 top-level fighters, which, I mean, you guys tell me, name you 1 top-level fighter Andre Ward stopped at their natural weight, because Chad Dawson doesn't count. Chad Dawson came down from 175 and was not even remotely close to the Chad Dawson we saw at light heavyweight. So with that being said, there's something to be said about a guy who beats 4 of the top 10, stops 2 of them, because as we know in boxing, it's very hard to stop, you know, top-level guys. So as you guys can see, just from 2015 to 2016 alone, he's beaten Viloria, he's beaten Sosa, and he's beaten Arroyo. Now, you know, just in case you guys don't know how to use BoxRec, here's Sosa, Viloria, Arroyo, right there, boom. So for ego to say that this guy isn't worthy of being number 1 and who has he beat, you know, it's crazy, crazy stuff. So with that being said, then poses the question, right? Poses the question. He says the following. He says, well, actually, hold on. Before I get to what I'm going to say now, I'm going to get back to Brian Viloria, because I know it everywhere, so I'm sorry, guys, I'm ranting and rambling. But so he also said that, you know, when he was going over his resume, and he was like, well, he fought Brian Viloria, a guy who had losses and had been stopped before. Okay, the first thing he noticed was who he got stopped by and how he lost. That's cool, but I'm gonna show you a reason right here why Roman. I'm not gonna tell you. I'm gonna show you. This ain't new media, because I'm not calling it. This is true media, true sports media. I keep it 100 on here. So, a lot of guys like Ego and Dante, they talk about Brian Viloria like he's a nobody. So we're gonna go to his resume, as you guys can see right here on BoxRec. Viloria is 36-5 with 22 knockouts. You know, so the guy's been a pretty solid fighter at the weight for a number of years. He's 35 now. Roman fought him. He was relatively old, but still, like I said, a guy worthy of being in the ring and could give Roman Gonzalez fits on the given night. So look at his resume as of late. You know, he had a really close fight with Juan Francisco Estrada. You know, he wins that fight, and our perception of that win is a lot different than it is right now, because Estrada has went on to establish himself as the best guy after Roman Gonzalez in that weight class. But then he beat a guy in 2011, right? And that guy's name in 2011 was none other than Giovanni Segura. So Giovanni Segura, for those of you who don't know, was a guy that, you know, at that weight class, hard puncher, you know, definitely a guy that would give anybody problems. And I'm going to illustrate to you guys how good Giovanni Segura was. Okay, so we all know, and I'm going to pull up Andre Ward's resume as well, so you guys can get the full picture of what I'm saying. I don't want to just give you one side. I want to give you the whole picture. So here you go. Hold on. Ring Magazine, rankings, annual. So let me go to Andre Ward's BoxRec. Go to BoxRec right here. Slide that over. Okay. So Andre Ward, 30-0, 30-0, 15 knockouts. Obviously, you know, Andre Ward is a good fighter, great fighter, blue chip talent. You know, guy that won a gold medal, which is not a small accomplishment by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, nobody in America has won a gold medal since Andre Ward, so you know he's a very talented fighter. Beat good fighters, Kessler, Froch. You can't take that away from him. At one point in time, he did have a case to be pound for pound #1, but not right now. So I'm going to show you why right now. So let me go back to Ring Magazine rankings. We're going to go to the year of 2011 because that was a great year for Andre Ward. Now, Andre Ward in 2011, and I also wanted to make note that since 2011 or 2016, this year was the first year Andre Ward has had multiple fights in 1 year since 2011, and that was a good year for him. He beat Arthur Abraham and Carl Froch in the Super 6. So that being said, let me go to the Arthur Abraham one. Abraham was a good fighter, you know, very slow plotter type fighter, but very methodical, still a very intelligent fighter within that plotting. But still, Ego was like, well, you know, who was the guys that were undefeated? And, you know, Roman Gonzalez was fighting guys who were 4-1, 5-1, 10-1, 20-1 underdogs. Well, here we have Andre Ward, a guy who fought Arthur Abraham, a 4-1 underdog, as you guys can see. I'm highlighting it right here. Good fighter, but if you guys have watched Arthur Abraham fight, you know he's the kind of style that's made to order for Andre Ward, tailor-made. So it wasn't like, and this Andre Ward is a lot more talented than the one that's fighting right now. Obviously, he's more active, and you know it was a lot more sharper back then. But you know, still made to order for Andre Ward. So yeah, it was a good win against an opponent, but let's not act like he beat a guy that he was supposed to lose to. Now he fought Carl Froch. To me, this is like the best win of his career, no doubt about it. Carl Froch is going to go to the Hall of Fame one day. Carl Froch is unified champion, but when you look at it, you know, Carl Froch is a guy that, for one, you know, if you look at the way he fights, he's always been a guy that doesn't have an incredibly good jab. He's a solid jab, but it wasn't like an incredibly good jab. And on top of that, you know, he likes to load up on a lot of his punches, and he always looks for knockouts, which is not a bad thing. It's actually what won him the George Groves fights. But against a guy like Andre Ward, who's just so cerebral and smart in the ring, especially at that particular time, it was another fighter whose style, stylistically speaking, was made to order for Andre Ward. The only guys at 168 that could really give him any problems at that particular time, I think a lot of people would probably lean towards Butte, because at that time Butte was, you know, a solid fighter, a guy with power. You know, I would still go on to say that Butte was another style made to order for Andre Ward. He would beat Butte as well, because he's just better than him. But then I would also say Andre Durrell is another guy that would have given Ward problems because of his slickness, his counterpunching. He had solid power at that weight. So I think Andre Durrell would have been the hardest fight for him. So if he beats Andre Durrell, it's a different story. But Carl Froch, good fighter, was on the pound-for-pound list, but I wouldn't say he has like overwhelming pound-for-pound skills. But still a great win for him against a future Hall of Famer. So A lot of you guys pose a question, or Boxing Ego, I should say, pose a question. Well, we said Brian Viloria has stopped. He had losses. You know, he'd been knocked out before. Well, okay, he beat a guy in Giovanni Segura, who, like I said, at that time he fought him was 28 1-1, 24 knockouts. So 24 knockouts in 30 professional fights. I'm no genius, but that's pretty damn good. You know, and Viloria in this fight was an underdog. He was not supposed to win this fight. This is a fight where, you know, he came in as a guy expected to lose, and you know, he won this fight and he got the stoppage victory in the 8th round and pulled off the upset over Segura. So when we look at Segura, like I said, hard puncher, feared guy at that time. Well, let's look at the pound for pound list, and this list was made. These rankings that I'm looking at are accurate through December 31st, 2011. So that means this list was constructed at the height of Andre Ward's Super 6 tournament, winning the Super 6 and beating Carl Froch and things of that nature. Now, as we can see on the pound for pound list, we have Manny Pacquiao here. We got Floyd Mayweather here, number 2. Sergio Martinez at 3. Nonito Donaire at 4. Juan Manuel Marquez at 5. Vladimir Klitschko at 6. This guy, who I can't pronounce his name, but I know he beat Edgar Sosa to get on the pound for pound list. Number 8 is Timothy Bradley. Number 9, we have Giovanni Segura, and look who's number 10, Andre Ward. Now, the reason this is important is because you guys are saying, well, who's Brian Viloria? Brian Viloria beat a guy who was above Andre Ward on the pound for pound list. So, like, obviously, Brian Viloria has done something right. He's a good fighter to beat a guy of this magnitude that was ranked above the great Andre Ward who won the Super 6. So I just want to illustrate that. I'm showing it to you right here. I'm not lying. BoxRec is a credible site. Ring Magazine is a credible boxing site. So, I mean, there you go. Giovanni Segura, Andre Ward, boom. So Brian Viloria is a hell of a win for Roman Gonzalez, and he's a guy that over the course of his career has definitely established himself as probably the 3rd best flyweight of his era. I would say behind like Roman and Juan Francisco Estrada. Is that crazy to say? No, it's not. Anybody else not named those guys is above, or is below Brian Viloria, I should say. So there's that. So then here's where it really gets fun. Ego says, who has Roman beat who was like that dude in the weight class, you know, who was undefeated? I mean, he gets caught up with the O, but you gotta understand when it comes to lower weight classes, these guys can't be like Andre Ward to make money, okay? They can't pick fights and say, I want in my backyard. No. They got to fight whoever's in front of them, so they got to fight the best. And so a lot of guys at the lower weight classes will not have an undefeated record. It's very rare. And I guarantee you, like 9 times out of 10, if a guy at like flyweight or one of those weight classes has an undefeated record, you can bet your house that that guy is probably the real deal. And that applies to Roman Gonzalez. So you ask, who did he beat? Well, in boxing, you know, if you beat a lineal champion, that by the way boxing is structured and the way boxing works, the lineal champion is the guy, because to be the lineal champion, you got to beat the guy who beat the guy. So Roman Gonzalez in 2014 beat the guy, and his name is Akira Yagashi. Yagashi was, like I said, the flyweight lineal champion at the time Roman fought him. Roman, you know, had a really dominant performance over Yagashi, and was able to, you know, really put it on him in that fight. So, you know, there was him. I also mentioned Juan Francisco Estrada. This guy, Estrada, probably skill-wise, the best Mexican fighter of today. A guy who's been a unified champion, defended it 5 times, which is 3 times more than Froch defended his unified championships. You know, Froch, he only defended it against George Groves, which is not bad. Groves is a good fighter, I'm just saying. So there's that. So I'm going to show you how I know Ego is ignorant to small weight classes, because in his video, when he goes through fighter by fighter and tries to discredit Roman Gonzalez, he gets to Akira Yagashi, doesn't say his name, and he immediately points to his losses, he immediately points to his low knockout percentage, doesn't mention that he was the lineal champion when Roman fought him, and doesn't mention that he's a current champion right now. I'm going to show you, I'll show you in the video. Before I even show you the video, I wanted to say this. You know, I didn't go to college, but you know, I do know some things about college. Like, if you make a declarative statement, if you say something is better than another thing, you got to actually prove that. If I say LeBron James is better than Michael Jordan, I have to prove that, and then vice versa. If Michael Jordan is better than LeBron, I have to prove that. And I can't go into that comparison, you know, with a predetermined outcome. I can't say, well, I think Michael Jordan is better, so I'm going to look for facts or things that will discredit LeBron, and vice versa. And that's what Eagle did in this video, which is why he gets no credit. Roman beat Higashi, was a lineal champion. I'm going to show you right here. So we're going to go to Eagle's video. I'm going to show you right now. I'm going to play the audio. I'm going to screen share it. I'm going to do all that. So share, everyone. Boom. All right. So here we have Boxing Eagle's video. I'll make sure this is full screen for you guys so you can get a good look of what he had to say. So here it is. Let's take a listen to what he said.
On the list, saying he's over Andre Ward. No, let me keep going. Right? Rocky Fuentes, 37, 8, and 2 with 3 knockouts. Right? Once again, Roman fought him in 2014. He was coming off a loss to I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name.
Oh wait, hold on, guys. Pause. I started from the wrong point, but this is actually something that I wanted to bring up. This guy didn't know who Amnat Ruanrong is, and honestly, Amnat Ruanrong is not a guy you're gonna know unless you really follow boxing and those smaller weight classes. Which he didn't know him, so I didn't know he didn't follow small weight classes because, like I said earlier, Amnat Ruanrong was a Thailand fighter who got the decision over McWilliams Arroyo, who is who Roman Gonzalez beat. He also recently just fought in the Olympics. So for those of you who don't know, because they had the pros. Guys turned pro this year. Guys who were pros competed in the Olympics. He competed in the Olympics. So I just want to get that out there because Ruanrong's not like no A-level fighter or nothing like that, but he's someone that if he's followed small weight classes, you'll know because of the controversial fight with Arroyo and then him being in the Olympics. So I just want to get that out there.
Somebody in some fight in Thailand. He's coming off a loss. Then he fought Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez. This is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about stacked division. And you see all these reds, and he got stopped somewhere here. Cool, right?
Here we go, guys. It's coming right now.
Where else are we?
Here we go. Watch, here it is.
24, 5, 41% knockout.
Boom. He did. Okay, so look. First of all, he doesn't even say his name. I'm not sure if he can pronounce it, but he didn't even try to say his name, which means that, to me, I can tell he's already looking for ways to discredit him. He points to his 5 losses. And here we go. So watch. You guys are gonna see clearly the first 2 fights because he won. This Higashi recently just picked up the I forget which title. He picked up a title recently and he defended it. He picked it up in December and he defended it in May. So you're gonna see how he just glazes over that and immediately points to his losses. So watch this, guys. Watch.
Ratio.
Pause. Boom. So in December 29th, he beat Javier Mendoza to pick up the IBF light flyweight title, and then he just defended it recently on May 8th. So. Higashi's clearly a good fighter because he was lineal champion when Gonzalez beat him. As you guys can see here, he beat Edgar Sosa, who was a top 10 flyweight right now, as I guys showed you. So beating good fighters, been in the ring with good fighters, and became a champion after Roman beat him. So clearly this guy's not a slouch. But here you go. Just look.
He's got stopped by Roman, then he got stopped after, but he had already lost and he had already been stopped before.
Pause. Okay, the guy he lost to, he pointed to not these 2 right here, but the previous guy he lost to, which is the 3rd loss of his career. He lost to Kazusoto Ioka. Ioka is not really well known here in the States, but Ioka is one of those Japanese fighters who's very well regarded in the weight classes. On Ring Magazine, he's ranked number 2, and he's and right now Juan Francisco Estrada is supposed to come back really soon and fight Ioka, and that's supposed to be a big fight. So whenever the number 1 versus the number 2 guy at flyweight, that's not someone who's a slouch. So Higashi only loses to good fighters. So just want to put that out there. But here.
Well, actually, he got stopped after, but he hadn't been stopped before. He had 4 losses before, or 3 losses, right?
So there you have it, man. Ego League went through Akira Higashi, never said his name, never mentioned one positive thing about him. And the guy there's plenty of positive things to mention due to the fact that he's currently a champion. Didn't mention that he's currently a champion. Didn't mention that he was the lineal champion when Roman fought him. So when you don't even say his name, when you don't mention any of the things he did positive, that takes away from anything you're trying to say to discredit Roman Gonzalez. I mean, at least if I'm discrediting Andre Ward, I'm still giving him credit saying that he did beat good name fighters like Carl Froch and Kessler and guys of that nature. Although I think that most of those guys were styles were made to order from him, but still. So there was that. Yeah, that to me is where I really knew he didn't know about the small weight classes, and this was completely agenda driven, like a lot of the stuff that's being put out by him and other guys in the YTBC. So he then goes on by saying Rocky Fuentes and Valentin Leon. These are 2 guys that garbage. And they were. Valentin Leon has like 32 losses. Fuentes has like 19. There were guys that didn't belong in the ring with Roman Gonzalez, but I'm gonna tell you guys what the difference between Roman Gonzalez and Andre Ward is very soon. But Fuentes and Leon, these were guys that were stay busy fights. They were both guys that Roman fought after picking up the lineal title at flyweight. 2 easy fights to get under his belt after having a tough out Yagashi. And then after that, if you want to say, okay, he cherry picked those guys into 2 easy fights, okay, cool. But he redeemed himself. He fought after that, after the fights with Leon and Valentin Leon and Rocky Fuentes, who were cans. He then fights 3 of the top 10 guys. He fights Edgar Sosa, he fights Brian Viloria, and then he fights Vic Williams-Real. So he redeems it. He redeems himself, even if you want to go by that nature. So let's not look at the facts as we want to see them. Let's look at them as they are. The guy fought 2 cans, and then he fought 3 top 10 guys and beat the crap out of all of them. So that's what it is. It's called objective methodology. You don't go in with a preconceived notion trying to disprove something. That's what he did here. And I hope you guys are seeing the ignorance displayed by Boxing Ego that I'm showing you. So then after that, another thing too is he didn't mention that Roman was the first guy to stop Akira Yagashi, but anyway. So then he says, after he doesn't say anything about Yagashi being the lineal champion, he doesn't say anything about Yagashi being a champion right now and making a title defense. After he says that, then he has the audacity to say that Roman Gonzalez, what should we call it? That you got, then he has the audacity to say that, a lot of you guys, or some of you guys are sheep and don't study the game like I do. I study everything. I know boxing. Like, come on, man. You can't say you know boxing and you're supposed to know about all these weight classes and you don't know who Akira Yagashi is or am not Ruin Wrong. These are notable fighters. Ruin Wrong is a top 10 fighter at flyweight. I believe he's ranked number 6 by ring. Yagashi has just picked up a title and is now a champion once again. So if you don't know these guys and you claim to know the smaller weight classes, you disprove yourself in your own video by saying that. And here's the main gripe that I have. One of the main gripes I have for that video that really pissed me off. It's because number one, he has a lot of subscribers. Ego's putting a lot of work. Although I am disproving him in this video, let me not take away from the fact that he's hustled very hard. His presentation is always on point. He does good things on his channel, but this video is not one of them. But one thing that really pissed me off is some of the guys that he didn't mention in that video. There was no mention of the likes of Juan Francisco Estrada, who has solidified himself as a fringe pound-for-pound fighter. He's on my pound-for-pound list. Definitely the best fighter at flyweight outside of Roman. And, didn't mention him, who's the unified champion. He didn't mention Castanori Takayama, who, like I said, guys, I covered small weight class. I've started covering the small weight class because I feel like in boxing I need to cover the sport as a whole. I just did a video about Castanori Takayama in his recent win. I forgot the guy's name, but he picked up a title recently, the WBO minimum weight title. I did a video about that. Francisco Rosas is also wanted to become a champion. And then Yutaka Nida, a guy that for many years was considered the consensus #2 best minimum weight fighter for a 3-year stretch behind only Ivan Calderon, and Ivan Calderon was on the pound-for-pound list. So what does it say about Yutaka Nida? He's a good fighter. He made a whole string of title defenses, and Roman didn't just beat him, he beat him into retirement. So the fact that he mentioned those 4 fighters, he lost a lot of credibility with me, and I think just the fact that he has the audacity to mention Andre Ward in the same sentence as Roman Gonzalez right now at this point in his career, with what he's done recently, I think it's clear bias. It's clear bias. He gets a lot of Andre Ward interviews, and they're good interviews. I watch them. I have to watch them to stay up to date what's going on, but they're really it's biased. So. Just wanted to get that out there. And so here's what I wanted to tell Boxing Ego about the difference between Roman Gonzalez and Andre Ward when they're in there with no-name opposition. Now, Roman did fight no-names in Rocky Fuentes and Valentin Leon. This is not something that I'm going to try and argue because it's not true. Because it's true that they're cans. He's supposed to beat them. But Andre Ward recently just fought a can named Alexander Brand. And a lot of you guys are going to be like, I know a lot of people are like, well, he had over 400 amateur fights, and he was this awkward Colombian fighter. Well, we don't even know what his amateur record was. That's number one. Number two, unlike a lot of I really don't know about Leon and Fuentes, but I'm saying like Brand was a guy that at his natural weight, 168, was a guy that was ranked 35th, 40th not a world beater at 168, not a guy you could sit there and say that, you know, this guy's a top level 168 pounder. And Ward didn't even fight him at 68. Ward brought him up a weight class to where Ward was significantly bigger. His weight hadn't adjusted. This guy also had a very short camp. I believe his camp was only 2 weeks. So me having the respect that I do have for Andre Ward, you know, I thought Andre Ward was still this, you know, could be this pound for pound upper echelon fighter. So being that I think that about him, you know, I'm sitting there and I'm watching the fight and I'm thinking, you know, he's gonna really put it on Alexander Brand. He's gonna knock this guy out. I know he's not a big puncher, but he's gonna get an accumulation stoppage or something. And what happens? Nothing. It was a glorified sparring session, and Andre Ward, you know, didn't do anything to Alexander Brand. Really, he just outboxed for 12 rounds and got his rounds in. Now, is there a problem getting rounds in? Absolutely not. But when you're a guy like Andre Ward who struggles to sell tickets in his own backyard of Oakland, where they're putting his tickets on Groupon and stuff like that for 50% off, it's imperative that before the biggest fight of your career against Sergey Kovalev, that you make a statement against a guy you can easily make a statement against. I feel like he could have made that statement against Alexander Brand, but rather than making that statement, he decided that he'd rather turn southpaw and just flicker his jab all night, which was, you know, really, really disappointing. So that's a difference. When Roman Gonzalez fights a no-name opposition that you guys want to discredit him for, he knocks him out in 3 rounds. He knocked out Valentin Leon with 32 losses out in 3 rounds. Andre Ward goes 12 rounds with him, and that's what separates pound-for-pound kings from each other, a fighter from one another. You know, how dominant can you be against not just guys who are good, but the inferior competition? Do you fight down to the level of the competition, or do you stay at the level you're used to being at, which is at the top? And Roman doesn't fight down to his level of competition. He blows them out. Andre Ward, on the other hand, he fought down to his level of opposition, and he fought in such a way, in such a manner that day, that even Brand himself went to Kovalev and said, yo, you're going to knock this guy out, because he knew he didn't have enough power. So that's where the difference lies between them with inferior fighters. Then, and this is going to be my last point, and then I'll be ending the video real soon. Now, Andre Ward is a guy who had his promotional issues with Dan Goosen before he passed away. He's a guy that has been inactive for a while, so I understand that he needs to shake off his ring rust. I get it, 100%. He needs to shake off his ring rust. Has he beat anybody on that comeback that's like impressive? No. He beat Pudding Pop Paul Smith, who gets beat by everybody who's like, you know, a good fighter. He beat Sullivan Barrera, who was very green and inexperienced at that time, only had 17 fights coming into that fight. And then he beats Alexander Brand, a guy who he picked up from an unranked fighter at 168, who he brought up to 175, and he still couldn't knock out. So that's 3 tune-up fights for him to fight Kovalev. Roman Gonzalez, on the other hand, he doesn't need tune-up fights. This guy is fighting the best fighters. He's fighting, you know, his next fight. I'll be there in LA at the Forum covering the fight for my man Thunder No Boxing Talk. Shout out to Anthony. But you know, in a boxing, you go, if you see me there and you want to talk about this, you want to have a debate on camera, we can do that. But what I'm saying is, Roman is not taking tune-ups. And in an era where everybody wants a tune-up, everybody wants an easy fight, everybody wants to do less but get paid more, here we have Roman Gonzalez saying, you know what, I've beaten 4 of the top 10 guys at flyweight, I'm jumping up right to 115, and I want to fight Carlos Cuadras, a guy who's ranked number 2 in the eyes, some people number 1 in that division. A guy who has stylistic advantages and physical advantages over Roman. You know, he's a naturally bigger guy, a hard puncher, a guy who's more accustomed to that weight, a guy who's been a solid champion. It's very conceivable that Roman could get knocked out in this fight. I don't think it's going to happen, but it's possible. Cuadras is a good fighter, and I'll have a video about him coming up soon because I don't think I've been talking about him. But that's a fight that's going to be really hard for Roman. It's the kind of fight that if he just wins it, there's no way Kovalev and Ward could be number 1, regardless of what happens in that fight. Now, another reason why he can't be over Roman is simply this. All right, we have to look at things as they are. Now, I know HBO is telling a lot of you guys, boxing fans, boxing world, that the Kovalev Ward fight is for the pound-for-pound number 1 spot. And it's not. I'm gonna tell you why. Kovalev is a guy that has established himself as the king of 175 for the time being. And then you have guys like Adonis Stevenson, Arthur Beterbiev, guys like that, you know, who are pretty good. But he's the guy at light heavyweight. Now Ward just came to light heavyweight, and he really hasn't beat anybody at light heavyweight. He beat Paul Smith, Sullivan Barrera, and Alexander Brand. So he beat two guys really that really weren't that good, or three guys that really weren't that good. And really, in actuality, what Kovalev and Ward is really just like the #1 guy fighting like the lower tier of the top 10, which is not a bad fight, but it's not what you would call for the undisputed pound-for-pound #1 spot. That's not me hating. That's just what it is. Ward is not a proven light heavyweight yet, as far as fighting top-level guys. Kovalev is. So Ward right now, while he's looked good and you got to give him respect because of his talent, he necessarily hasn't done enough to warrant even being a top 5 light heavyweight, let alone fighting for the #1 pound-for-pound spot in the world. And I think, honestly, I'm being very nice to Ward. I think there's people out there that would agree with me that would say that Ward is barely the 10 best light heavyweight because the jury's still out on him. So even if he does win, he's still got to do more to earn that spot. Now, if he can go beat Kovalev, maybe if he wants to take an easy fight to Kovalev, because that's going to be a hard fight for him. If he beats Kovalev, take an easy fight, and then maybe go fight like Adonis Stevenson or like a Arthur Beterbiev, if he's able to beat any combination of those three guys, Kovalev, Beterbiev, Stevenson, then I could consider him putting him in #1. But until he does that, I can't put him over a guy like Roman Gonzalez, who's won to every weight class and beat the guy in the division. Beat Yuta Kaneda, who was the second best minimum weight fighter at the time. He beat Juan Estrada, who's won to become a dominant champion. Takayama, who's been a proven champion, who's won every variation of the minimum weight title. The WBO, WBA, WBC, all that's IBF. He beat Arroyo, who was really the uncrowned IBF champion at flyweight. Beat Yagashi, who was a lineal champion. And he's done through multiple weight classes. And there's plenty of other guys that I'm not even mentioning them. But like his resume speaks for itself if you really go look at it. So I can't do that. I can't put him over a guy like Roman Gonzalez, who's proven himself, who's went into other people's backyards. Something Andre Ward hasn't really done any of. Roman Gonzalez has fought in Japan. Roman Gonzalez has fought. America's kind of becoming his home now that he's had a couple fights here, but it's still foreign territory. He's not from here. He's from Nicaragua. He lives in Nicaragua. He doesn't speak English. So he's fought in Japan, which is a world away from Nicaragua, and now he's fighting in America. So Ward hasn't done anything remotely close to going to somewhere like Japan. If Ward would have went to like England and fought Froch at Wembley Stadium or something like that, then I could say, wow, well, Ward's travel before, and then it'd be a little more debatable. But there's no debate. Ward fights in Oakland all the time. His literally his backyard. So there's just no comparison as far as the amount of top level guys they beat. Roman's beat 8 world champions. Andre's beat 5. Roman's had more guys on his resume who have went on to become world champions after he beat them than Andre Ward. So the guys that Roman beat actually wanted to prove that they were still legitimate after he beat them, which says a lot about him. The guys Ward beat, I would say like Froch is a little older, so I won't hold that against Ward. What's it called? Who am I thinking of right now? Dawson was completely done after the Ward fight. And then I'm thinking of somebody else. I can't put it to memory right now, but a lot of the guys on Ward's resume didn't do too much after that. And I'm not going to sit here and say it's because he beat the crap out of them and they're never the same. No, he outboxed them, but they're all a little bit older. Guys Roman beat were still wanted to become really good champions, and they were champions before him. They were champions while he fought him. You can't say that about all the guys on Ward's resume. So just based on that, based on the fact that here we have him again trying to do what the great Alexis Arguello did, RIP, and win a world title in his 4th weight class against a guy who physically has a lot of advantages against him. Name me a guy who's doing that. Name me a guy in boxing right now who has beaten multiple guys, multiple #1 guys in the division, moved up weight classes, defended the title in every weight class minimum of 3 times, and then goes up to the next weight class, fights a guy who physically is bigger than him. In what is, you could view it as Cuadras' backyard because it's in LA. He's from Mexico. LA is basically like Mexico. There's going to be a lot of Mexican fight fans there. So you could say that. You could say that he's on the road once again in the biggest fight of his career. And so how can you do that? How can you compare that? How can you compare the two? This is a guy who beats the inferior fighters within an inch of their life and knocks them out. And Ward's going 12 rounds with no name opposition. It's like if Ward, or not Ward, if Gennady Golovkin, who a lot of you guys, particularly boxing go, I know you discredited him a couple times in this video, but if Gennady Golovkin decided to say, well, if he was 116, he cherry picked a welterweight. I know you guys are gonna say, well, he's cherry picking Kell Brook, which is not a cherry pick. Kell Brook is barely a welterweight. He's a 154 pounder fighting as welterweight. But like if Gennady Golovkin said, you know what, I'm gonna fight Aaron Martinez. Aaron Martinez has to come to 160 and fight me. And if Gennady Golovkin went 12 rounds with Aaron Martinez, there would be video after video after video from all these channels about how Gennady's overrated, how Gennady is not a pound-for-pound fighter, and he shouldn't be anywhere near the top 5, let alone number 1. And when it's done to Ward in that situation, you guys try to justify it. So double standards going on. I think anybody who really follows boxing as a whole, not just a couple weight classes, not just American fighters, not just black fighters, not just Mexican fighters, I think anybody who's really following boxing and knows the guy's Roman Gonzalez's resume, they know that this guy has beat more champions than Andre Ward, more unified champions than Andre Ward, has done more traveling as far as going into people's backyards than Andre Ward, and the resume speaks for itself. So, I mean, boxing ego, I don't know where you get this from. I know you have an agenda. I know you love Ward, but just look at the facts as they are. Don't be biased. So, yeah, man. I'm going to be tagging you in this video, so make sure you watch it.